Welcome to episode 185 of the XS Noize Podcast. I'm Mark Millar. Thanks for listening. In this episode, I speak to Northern Irish Songstress Janet Devlin. If you missed the previous episode, I spoke to Lisa Murish about her new album, Divine Chaos. So check it out, and if you like the podcast, please subscribe on your favourite listening platform, give us a rating, and leave a comment. Janet Devlin recently returned with her powerful new country rock single, Emotional Rodeo. Janet will also release her new album bearing the same name later this year. In this interview, Janet talks about appearing on the X Factor, upcoming album, touring with Russell Crowe, and lots more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the XS Noize Podcast with Janet Devlin. So hi Janet, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hiya, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. I'd like to go back to the start. Can you remember the first band or artist that made you pay attention to music?
Oh, I know there was never that moment because, like, as a kid, even my mom said we had this really weird version of Pinocchio, not Disney. We weren't rich, so we had this weird, obviously, like charity shop version of it. And before I could speak, apparently I was like singing along to the song, obviously without the words being correct. So that, and then I was straight into a Keeley band at like 6 years old. Like music had already been a foundation. So it was always just like a expansion pack as I grew older and discovered like more genres and things.
What music was playing around the house?
Right. So I was very lucky in this sense. So I was the youngest of three older brothers, so I'm the only girl and the youngest, and then my babysitters were my cousins, and they both have very different music tastes. And then my parents like loved country, right? So my parents always listening to country music, even to this day. On a Sunday, if I'm somehow in Ireland at my parents' house, it'll be 9 a.m. and I'll go down and my dad has the country music station on and he's sitting there having his breakfast, you know. And I used to do competitive show jumping, and we'd always have country music CDs on in the cars. We're driving ridiculous hours to go compete. And then my mom actually was into like, you know, Adam Ant and like just that kind of music as well as country. And then one of my babysitters was very into dance music. So that was like, I got a lot of exposure to like Moby, Fatboy Slim. And then my other babysitter was into like Kerrang, Scuzz, MTV2. And then my eldest brother was very into hip hop. And then my other brother into country. And then the other one very much into like pop music. So as the youngest, I don't ever get the remote. I don't ever get the choice of what's on the radio. I don't ever get to choose anything. So I just got exposed to all of those things. And I still listen to like all of those genres. But definitely, like, for me, the thing that I would have loved the most would have been the country, because all my family listened to country, like whether or not they're into rap or hip hop, like country is still a fundamental. And I think it's to do with storytelling. Like people from home, like your favorite person in the bar is always the person who can tell the best stories. Yep. Even if you know they're half nonsense, if they're delivering it, you know you're enjoying it. So I think it'll always have a sacred place in my heart.
Well, that explains the new musical direction you're going in, but we'll get into that. So, has music always been the career? Because you were hearing all those genres of music from all different people. So, when did you decide that you wanted to pursue music as a career?
So, when I was young, my mom asked me, as every parent does, or when you speak to like a 5-year-old, you ask them, like, what do you want to be when you're older? Anytime I got asked that, I remember my mom saying this very specific answer. She goes, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to be a singer. She goes, well, good luck looking for that in the job center. Like it was not a possibility for someone like myself. And I think with the culture back home, like, it's hard to be a full-time muso who's not like doing weddings. And here, nothing against doing weddings, like, you know, get your money. But I mean, like, if you just want to be an artist and do shows, it's very hard. So it just never came to my brain as something that I could do. Hence why I was very invested in my books and my UCAS form of gathering points. Like, I was a very dedicated student. So I just didn't think it was a possibility. And then I actually started I used to play guitar and I used to play loads of stuff in the Ceilidh band and stuff. But when I was a teenager, I was learning drums. Because if you remember me at 16, you'll know that I was not very good at being the front of something. So in my head, I wanted to be like a drummer in like a punk band or something or just in a band, because a drummer is a fundamental person. They're very important, but they're not at the front. And they, like, you know, I could hide away in the back. But I did that, and I was doing singing competitions at the time solely to get the money to pay for a drum kit, because my parents said to me they absolutely were not going to buy me that. So I had to earn it myself. But that led into like doing these competitions. My mate came along, my best mate Megan. She came and she seen me sing, and she was like my biggest fan. So she ended up buying me a video camera with the stipulation of you have to film YouTube covers or like put your music on YouTube or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So before I even did TV, I had a YouTube channel, had about like 20,000 followers, and I'm talking like 2010, 2011. So in those days, that was like impressive. But as a teenager, I didn't know that was like, I didn't have a concept of what to do with that. It was just a thing that was there until my mother obviously suggested, take that most popular video and send it into X Factor because they're taking video auditions, So it wasn't a thought of mine to be a professional singer really until like the opportunity just kind of arose. And even when I was sending the video in, because I was about to go into sixth form, I was like, maybe, do you know what? Maybe I might put sixth form on hold anyway. Because that was like the awakening of the thought of like, maybe I could just do music for a year. Like, let's try and do music for a year. So that was my plan. Like, if X Factor didn't go right, I was still going to go away, write a bunch of music and try and record it and see what I could do.
Yeah, you 16. You're on X Factor in 2011, and you performed Elton John's "Your Song," which was absolutely tremendous. And that's a fantastic song, and you did a fantastic version of it. So, why did you choose that song?
Oh, so that was my first choice. Because I had the most views on YouTube. But obviously, TV is TV land. Like, before I even did the TV audition, like, I'd already done 9 other auditions in the space of like a day. Because that video audition only skipped you the first day out of the 2-day audition process. So day one is, when you've seen that like drone shot of all the people lining up, that's day one where you see if you make it to day 2. So I didn't have to do that, which was great, obviously, for flying to Liverpool. But yeah, I in one of them, I sang like 8 or 9 songs, because they were like, they're not impressed by me whatsoever at all. Right. But somehow like got through. So you always had to have like 5 songs in your list. Right. So Your Song was my top pick, and then so you literally just then sometimes have to just sing your way through the list, like.
I didn't know that. I thought you just went on and sang one. So there's obviously a lot of smoke and mirrors, in behind the scenes.
It's TV land, like, like, I would love to just be like, any reality show I've ever watched, I'd love to just believe that that's how it is.
Yeah.
It's a TV show at the end of the day. Like, I always hate bursting people's bubbles, but there's a process.
Well, you've done very well in the show, and you got really, really far. I read that Courtney Love tweeted Simon Cowell to offer you a Nirvana track to perform on the show. Have you had it got further? Is that right?
Yes. So she offered me do the song, but in and around that time as well, she'd like. So my makeup artist at the time, who I loved, who was working with the show, she was dating like a big dog at Enemy, like the music magazine. And apparently she'd been calling them flat out to say about like the whole apparently we're related thing.
Yeah, I heard that.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a story behind that. I'll explain it really quickly. So Devlin married into Cobain. Cobain went to America. In America, obviously, when they got off the boat, it's like, what's the name? And then they either either they heard it wrong or whatever, or they just changed the spelling. So it went from Cobain to Cobane when they got there. So she has access to all those documents because she runs the estate. So I kind of left it at that knowledge to go, oh, she's saying I'm his cousin. I'm saying I don't want to know in case he's not.
And do
But
you still not know?
I still don't. But what's so funny to me is if I post a video with my hair straight and like no eye makeup stuff, I get loads of comments saying, "Oh my God, you look like Kurt Cobain," and I'm like, funny you say that, because they're the same shade of blonde and the same color blue of eyes. Because I think people forget that I'm not actually ginger, but I don't want to know because it'll burst my bubble. Because when I finally got my own room in the X Factor house, like I had a Nirvana poster up. Like that was a fundamental in my diet as a kid, listening to Nirvana. So I feel like if I pursue it and find out it's not real, then it's sad. If I leave it as a question mark, it's kind of cool because it's a big maybe.
And what Nirvana song would you have sang?
I denied to do it. I didn't, because I did have time to do one, but I didn't. Which I know a lot of people would be, why would you just not do it? Because she doesn't give the permission to sing Nirvana songs on shows like that. She's very strict about like what gets to use Nirvana music. I just didn't feel it was right for me on the show to sing a Nirvana song. Also, I could not be bothered listening to the hardcore music purists. I knew the minute I sing a song, I'm just going to get hurled with abuse. Like, who do you think you are? So I was like, you know what? Let's leave it. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it, but it's not.
So what was the most memorable part of appearing on the X Factor for you?
The most memorable, but I think for me, was the people that I got to meet. Like, I got to meet so many like heroes on that show. Like, be it when you got sent to a red carpet, or be it they were performing on the show. And I think a big one for me was, again, because my makeup artist had big contacts in NME and the indie music scene and all that. I managed to meet Florence and the Machine, and I was her biggest fan at that time. And I got to go into her trailer, and she was a darling. And like experiences like that, meeting like, I don't know who else I met, like Kylie and like all these like big music icons. Walked past Justin Bieber in a hallway once, and he's like, "Hey Janet," and I was like, "Hey Justin." Huh? Very bizarre. Like, got to sneak into sound checks and stuff. Like, got to sit in a big arena that was empty minus their crew. I snuck in with my brother because I knew an entrance, because we'd done so much stuff at Wembley that I knew where one of the emergency exits was. So we got in to listen to Coldplay doing sound checks and stuff. So I think it was like all of those like moments of like meeting heroes, icons, and just those surreal life moments that I was trying to get as much of, because a career in the music industry post TV show is not guaranteed ever. Like, you just cannot, and even when you work your hardest, you might not get it. So I was like, well, I need to get as many stories as I can for when I'm an old lady and I'm talking to my grandbabies. Like, I remember when I met blah blah blah. So that was my goal.
And what was it like? How did you handle all the sudden fame and media attention that came with being on the show?
It always freaks people out when I say this, that so people perceive me as very shy. It wasn't that I was shy. I fundamentally did not like myself at all, is the best way to describe it. So I was only uncomfortable when I was just so uncomfortable when people were so nice, when like interviewers were being lovely, and like just everybody that I was bumping into being so complimentary and nice, and then having positive headlines and people following you on like Twitter and saying nice things made me very uncomfy. And I could tell that it was like, it's because I don't like myself. And at the time I was in a very toxic relationship. And I remember the guy I was seeing was like, yeah, I don't get why they're like saying your voice is this unique. It's not even that unique. You're not even that good. Like, la, 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 la. So I kept him around because I was like, finally, someone who sees it, awful relationship to be in, obviously, at the time, because he was just reiterating all of the negative thoughts I had.
Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe he was just jealous of your success you were having.
That's not my place to say, but he also
That's what it seems to me. That's what it seems like from where I'm sitting.
Yeah. So that was uncomfortable. Everything else was fine. I was really good at taking mean comments. I was really good at like standing up for myself when I had to. Like, obviously it's just frustrating on a show when you've got a vision and then you have to like concede a lot to doing what you have to do, and you get wins and you get losses. But that was probably like, the most difficult was actually just like people being lovely, because as well, I was bullied heavily through my teens. I felt like everybody was in on this big joke that I wasn't. Like, oh yeah, well, tell her she's really good, and sure, she's shocking or whatever. So it was just a big old mind game that was hard.
No, it's amazing that, you took that from people saying, you were great, and but when your parents were telling you were great, were you still feeling the same way?
Well, your parents won't tell you you're great whether you are or not. That's why in my head I was like, even if I don't get through an X Factor, if I get somebody on the panel that says, "Oh, you're a really good singer," I was like, "Oh, well, then I'll pursue it," because I couldn't trust my friends or my family, because I thought like they're like, "Oh, this would be really good for her to just just to be at the singing, to have something to do." Like, so I just wanted to go and get because in my head Simon was going to be doing it. I didn't know he wasn't there. And I was like, if I'm shocking, that's the man who's going to tell me, So I was paying for the fact of like, let's see if this is worth pursuing at all,
And how do you feel when you look back on that version of yourself now?
I tend not to look back too far, only because it's quite sad. Because when I see like so when people make me watch the audition and stuff like this, like I see a girl who's like really struggling with herself, like, because even before I went on TV, I'd already suffered with self-harm and anorexia and things like that, like, and I just see that pain, whereas other people say it as, oh, she's so shy, look at her go, she's doing so well, and I'm just see it, there's like a mother in me for her as the child of like, I want to protect her so much, but I can't. But all I could do was get better, and now like try and reparent that part of myself. But watching it just can be a bit difficult. And also like nobody really wants to look back at old stuff of themselves, because we all just go, oh Jesus, wasn't I in Egypt? But then you wait 20 years and you're like, oh, look at that.
Did you get any help then, for how you were feeling?
Yeah, so I'd already kind of been in therapy and stuff before I did TV. And then when stuff was getting really hard, I didn't know I had a personality disorder and a mood disorder and stuff before I went on the show, but I clearly did when I look at the symptoms. There came a point where I just wanted to go like speak to somebody, because I was very much on the edge of, not living anymore. And not because of the show or anything, or it was all, I already had these issues and I just carried them with me the whole journey of the show, and I carried them with me after, like, but I told the behind the scenes mentor that looked after everybody, I'm like, had a one-to-one, just like, I'm really struggling, like, I would like, is there a way that I can like get some help? And they were like, yeah, you wouldn't be the first, there's a few of you in therapy and whatever now. And literally like the next day, I'm pretty sure I was in Harley Street having talks with these amazing doctors and amazing psychiatrists and all of this. So they did help me, but I definitely remember there was a part where I think as soon as I got on the tour, I was like, okay, cool, I don't care now. What happens from here is like whatever, because obviously if you don't make the tour, you don't get paid. You just end up basically in debt, because like, paying for people's flights and paying for hotels or that kind of stuff, you end up basically at minus numbers, because they don't cover my parents flying over or my family flying over or anything like that. So I just wanted to get to that point so that I could put some money in the bank.
Well, you've talked about having problems with, with alcohol, and a couple of years ago, you made the BBC documentary, Janet Devlin, Young Female and Addicted, which was very, very powerful documentary. What did you take away from? I mean, you were talking about in the documentary, you were talking to other addicts, but what did you take away from making that program?
I had so many. There's a better word for this, but sobering moments on that. There's one thing, me sitting down and talking with another addict, because, we've been there, we've had the same feelings, and, that is what it is. But talking to the family members of those affected by it is just so much of a slap in the face in the best way possible. Like when I was talking to that, I've forgotten her name, I was really bad, but I was talking to this girl who'd lost her sister, who, her, on and out drinking, coming home and taking her own life. It sticks with me to this day, because as someone who did try to take their own life and would have been under the influence whilst doing so, seeing the pain that because everybody else carries when you're gone. It's essentially like all the pain you have that drives you to end your life doesn't disappear. It just gets given to every single person that loves you. And, I think I needed that. I needed that, slap in the face. And, just hearing those stories of people losing loved ones is just, it's that reality check of like, you pick that bottle back up and you could do this to the people that you love. And also, I think what was amazing about the doc was, I swear I didn't come off my phone for a month, because the amount of people that were messaging me, like asking for help, or like, saying that they loved the doc, and, like all of that, I was totally blown away. And I think as a human, the human experience, a lot of it's to do with like wanting to feel seen and heard. So me putting my story out there allowed me to feel seen and heard. And then when I was getting those DMs from people resonating with it, or like even people saying that it was the thing that like they're like, I'm going to go to rehab tomorrow, or I'm, going to call the doctor tomorrow. I'm going to like get sober. Like people sending me videos of them pouring their drink down the sink and stuff. Like that means that they saw that and they felt seen and heard. And I feel like it's a two-way street. It worked. It did what I needed, and it did what they needed. And like, that's in my head, if it helped one person, just one, it was worth the doing of it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it helped a lot of people. It certainly inspired me when I watched it.
And that's the hardest thing, is talking to people who have a loved one who's in it, because they're like, how can I help this? How can I help my brother? How can I help my sister or my mom? And I'm like, so long as you're there for them when they really need you, that's all. Because like, you can't. The thing that will get someone sober is the gift of desperation, and the gift of being on your knees, wanting it to be done now. And that might take 10 years for somebody. That might take 10 months for somebody else. But you can't give someone the gift of desperation. Like, and that's the worst part about the disease, is like, you can't get somebody else sober. And in recovery, they have a saying that you can carry the message, you can't carry the alky.
Yeah.
You can't, man. Like, it's such a problem back home. Like, it's a problem everywhere. But I think back home I have yet to meet somebody who isn't affected by alcoholism at home. Like, they have in some way been impacted by someone in their life having this condition. And then you think about the way that people talk about it, and it's like, oh, sure, he's fond of a drink, isn't he? Oh,
yeah. It's in our culture, we're well the Irish are well known for it. You having a drink, you go out for a drink, you getting the carry out at the weekend, going to the pub.
Yeah. What's the difference between an Irish wedding and an Irish funeral?
Don't know.
One less drunk. If the weather's good, we're drinking. If the weather's bad, we're drinking. If we're celebrating, we're drinking. If we're sad, we're drinking. It's like there's always a reason,
Yes.
But I'm always a firm sayer of because I think I get ones that think I'm trying to push sobriety onto the average Joe. I'm like, no, babe, are you okay with do you have an issue with drinking? No. Go forth and conquer. I'm jealous. I don't get to do that. That's not my life. That's not my story. I wish I could go to the pub, have a few pints and go home. Can't. I'm not trying to just be like, oh, alcohol's really bad. No. It is. If someone has a bad relationship with booze, that's who it's for. I'm not, because I've had a few people come up to me in the street and go see, I would have a wee glass of wine there every night when me dinner, and I'm is that bad? I'm like, are there consequences? Do you think it's bad? Because it's fine. But I think everyone's becoming more aware since, especially lockdown. I think everyone's trying to be a bit more conscious of how much they're drinking, because I feel like lockdown was the world's biggest piss up.
Well, see, to be honest, when lockdown happened, I was like, I hope the off licenses are going to be still open. And that was my first thought.
Which is fair. And I say again, if I could drink like a normal person, for Jesus, that was the green flag to go, oh, sure, no work in the morning, or if I'm working, I can work from bed hanging, and fair enough. It was, for some people, that little couple of drinks in the evening whilst trying to cope with the fact the world's on fire could have been a very well coping mechanism that was, do you know what? Not actually a bad one. Because did anyone get hurt? Did you get hurt? Was there any consequences? No. But did it get you through the lockdown? Sure. Great.
Yeah.
Who cares? Yeah.
Back to the music.
Mm-hmm.
Your new single, the brilliant country rock Emotional Rodeo, was released. Reached number 15 in the UK iTunes charts, number 4 in the iTunes country charts. So what can you tell me about the genesis of that song and the new country rock route that you were going down? You're currently going down.
So the album itself is actually, it spans loads of genres of country. Because I've been listening to country my whole life, there's so many different types of it that I love. And I felt for my first rendezvous into officially making country, because I've been singing country my whole life, but into recording it, I was like, I may as well just do all the ones that I really like. So there's old styley 60s honky tonk. There is the rock country that we've got. We've got more. There's bluegrassy stuff. We've got very stripped out Nashville. Actually, not even stripped out. We've got full band Nashville ballads. We've got a bit of dad rock country in there as well. There's loads of different types of it, and I figured as a fan, I wanted to dip my toes into all parts of it. But with Emotional Rodeo, first single is always hard because, no, even though you try your hardest to get the message out to everybody to go, hi, I'm making new music, please buy it. It takes 3 songs before people are awake to the fact that you're putting out new music. So with this one, I always had a soft spot for the song because I thought it was funny. And also as a content creator as well as an artist, I'm like, I could make quite a few videos with this song. Please, and also I didn't want to open with a ballad or something because I was like, oh, we'll be coming into summer. I'm going to have to make TikToks about a sad song. No, let's keep it up. And I remember, the label didn't understand me wanting this to be the first single. It's an indie label in America, so don't be thinking I'm minted or anything. No, they've just we've been working together a long time. There's no money out for me. But they were like, oh, why? I don't understand. I don't get this. It's not that, because it's not amazing. It's not the best song in the album by any stretch of the imagination. Right. I just was like, I think it's fun. And I think it's a good opener because I love opening albums now with a loud song. On my last album, it was Confessional from Confessional. And it was I threw the whole traditional band kitchen sink in it. plus loads of pop, and it was a big wall of sound. I just like going hard on the first one. But very excited for like the next couple of singles. And they are very different genre. Every single that I've currently mapped out is spanning the different types of country. So hopefully, people will be able to, if they don't like emo, then maybe they'll like the next one that's coming if they're a bit more old style country fans. So.
Well, it just goes to tell you, labels don't know nothing. I mean, the Emotional Rodeo was a hit. So there you go.
It exceeded, but it even exceeded my bloody expectations. I was like, I know there's a good pocket of my followers that will have a tickle with this song and will enjoy it. Did not expect it to do what it did, because obviously I've been releasing music for years. But for some reason, a bunch of people just went, do you know what? I will buy that. And I'm like, I don't know what has made this thing different, but thank you, because the thing is, like, it's so hard to get people to just like hit that button and like get the 99p, and you can't even bloody get a 99 anymore for 99p.
No.
But people actually like, because like one purchase is 150 streams. It's the equivalent of.
Right.
So if somebody had the money, I was like, please, could you just spare it? Because that's how we like climbed up the charts and we got in the big top 40 and stuff, was because of literal human beings buying it. Not like the playlists and stuff don't like me. So like Spotify and all the whatever, never in any playlist. And playlists are the easiest way to like get good numbers in a chart, because they have like 7 million listeners. And then those 7 million people listen to your song and it climbs its way up. But that's why I was so impressed and just so blown away, especially from the love from back home. Like, I've never done anything that's been this well received back home.
The video was fun as well.
Oh, thank you. We had no budget for that. Like, that was a like beg, borrow, and steal. The two girls in it are my actual mates. And the videographer, Liam, the director, he's just a music nut who works commercially in like big campaigns and like works for like big sport companies and things, but wants to do more music. So, he did us a big solid by taking it on for like basically no money. And the thing was, like, it was just fun. Because when in life do you ever just get to go in a professional manner? Yeah, so I booked a rodeo bull, a manor house in the countryside. I've got my two hot friends, and we're just going to gallivant in front of a camera. And then fall off the bull a million times to try and get a good shot. Okay, bye. Bonkers. Like, that is not a job. Like, I'm tired, but there are real jobs, and then there's what I do.
Yeah, well, the fun you were having certainly came across in the video.
Thank you.
When you're writing songs, do you typically start with lyrics, melodies, or something else? What's your method?
It used to vary a lot since I got diagnosed with ADHD and got medicated. I literally started writing the best songs I've ever written. And it shows on this next album the difference in like skill from where I started to where I am. And it solely was just to actually have a medication to help me do my job. So I figured out the way I work, and it like the writers I've used this with love it. Some are a bit like, wow, what? A bit extra or whatever. But in a songwriting session, I can get like three songs done in a day. And that's because like I'll come up with an idea. So I'll take Emotional Rodeo as an example. Had that line came into my head. I think I was telling somebody on a date or something. I was like, oh, I'm a bit of an emotional rodeo. I was like, went to the bathroom, type that on the phone. And from there, I have that title, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I was an equestrian my whole life, so I know a lot about like rodeo horses. Didn't know much about rodeo bulls. So what I do is like in my chill out time, I'm a podcast girly, so I'll have a podcast on the telly, and I'll sit there on my phone, and I love research. So I will go research everything I can about rodeo. And then I will I'll find idioms, clever turns of phrases, play on words, like little jokes, and I'll put them all down. And then I'll create my own dictionary of words, like a glossary of words to do with the subject. And then I'll sit and I'll write an example lines, example turns of phrase, like actually structure it more like a song. And then from there, I maybe lay down a few things in my dictaphone. But when I go into a session, because I do it on notes, and basically everybody who's in music has Apple because of the syncing nature of what's on my computer is on my phone thing. So what I do is then I invite whoever I'm writing with in to it. If I'm writing with someone, I don't always write with someone, but on Emotional Radio, I had two co-writers, and I invite them into my document, and they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a research document. It's this, that, and the other," and that means that the song's written in like an hour because all the googling, all the like research is already done. So I don't actually have to sit on Google and waste time, because the amount of times you get to a session and the Wi-Fi's dog, so you're like trying to be like, what's another word for this? So that's it's handy. And in fairness, everyone I've used that with has really enjoyed it. I think it's solely because then you do get like 3 songs done in a session, which is efficient.
And when can we hear the album? Does it come out this year?
So the plan is for it to come out this year. I'm hoping it won't come out this year. Hear me out. Right. When you're releasing like your singles for an album, if something takes off, the campaign for that song goes on for ages. You might be plugging a song for 6 months because it's like in the chart, and then you need to go and play these big gigs and be on these TV shows and do this, that, and the other. So the album gets pushed back. So the album is coming out this year, but hopefully it won't be, if that makes sense.
Yes, understand. If people want to understand the music of Janet Devlin, what are the 5 songs they should listen to?
Oh, wow. So currently what's out then? So I would say Place Called Home. I would say I would put Emo on that list, Emotional Radio. I would put trying to think of my first album, Things We Lost in the Fire, Whiskey Lullabies. But in Whiskey Lullabies, then Symphony Mishkwell, which is the Irish version of Better Now. So that's my 5.
By the way, I love your version of I Can't Help Falling in Love with You with Engelbert Humperdinck.
Really?
I was listening to one of your playlists on, because you mentioned playlists. I listened to a Janet Devlin playlist recently, and that was on it. And I never knew you did it.
Right. I think I'm doing a gig with him in London, actually. He's got a big, London gig, and I'm going to go up and sing that with him. But no, he is I can't believe when I got asked to do that, I was like, living legend.
Yeah.
Imagine. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, he is 100%. I'm talking about other living legends. In 2023, you toured with Russell Crowe and his band across Australia and Europe. And this July, you're going to be special guest with him in Dublin. So how did that happen? How did you become friends with Russell?
I became a joke between him and Ed Sheeran, essentially. And I'm not mad about it. I would rather that than not. Essentially, I did a cover. I do the whole YouTube covers thing for the crack. And I did a cover of his Bad Habits. And whenever he was releasing his album, then he shared it out on his Twitter. Now, him and Russell are besties, man. Talk about a duo that people don't predict. But I did that, and then apparently, I'll do the quick version, because it's easier than telling the whole story. But apparently what I didn't know was Ed Sheeran texted Russell a link to that before he put it on Twitter. And he sent a link to Russell and goes, "Is this better than mine?" Right. Now, Ed Sheeran goes ahead and posts it on Twitter and all this. And that evening, Russell quote tweeted it. He didn't text Ed back. He just quote tweeted it and said, "Yeah." Now, I didn't know of that conversation. So I already freak out because Ed Sheeran shared out my video. And then I see that Russell Crowe quote tweeted it. But I'm like, yeah? I don't know. I'm not going to question the man. And then he followed me, and then he was sharing out my stuff. And, he asked me to do a gig from last year in January. I basically flew to Australia and was there for like not even 4 days. So whirlwind traveling. And I thought that was it. Like, I went, did the gig, had the best time, stayed on his ranch, like, met his family, had big group dinners. Like, it's very family vibes, him and his band, and his team. And I thought that was it, because like that as a life experience, that's like, all right, cool, amazing. Thank you very much for the experience. I had the best time. I even got riding his horses around like the Australian bush, which was mental. So then, we stayed in contact or whatever, but like a few months later, then he just was like, do you want to go on tour in Australia? And obviously I'm like, Jesus, I don't know how I'm going to pay for that, but I'll make it work. Because when do you get to say you're going on tour in Australia with Russell Crowe and his band? So obviously said yes. And he planned that all out and just hit the road and had the best time. One of the best storytellers, naturally he's an actor, but like one of the best storytellers, one of the loveliest, most generous, funny people there is about. And I just feel incredibly blessed to have got to spend so much time with someone that's, just a living icon. But then also just like things that I've learned from him, it's a truly insane experience, like for someone who's just from the arse out of nowhere in Frone,
Yeah, and then next in July you'll be performing with him again, class.
Yeah, he's going on tour. He's doing a big tour this time. He is on one of the dates. He's doing the Rodeo Theatre in Dublin on the 1st of July, and I'm excited. Like obviously to do the gig, but I'm more excited to watch the gig again because I'm a big fan of his set. Like he does a lot of dark western, and he's playing the guitar. He's having a ball. Like there's a lot of like big rock moments, and I just can't wait to watch it again. And yeah. And I like opening for people. I prefer it than headlining because it's less stress. Like nobody's paid to see me.
Yeah.
My job's to warm them up, get them clapping, get them singing, having a good time. And then if they didn't like me, that's fine. They didn't pay to see me. So, next up it's the person you paid for, So it's going to be a good crack. And my mummy and my daddy are going, so that'll be lovely.
I'd like to ask my guests the following questions. For us music fans, music is the soundtrack to our memories. What song or album, when you listen to it, brings back the best memories for you?
Album that brings back the best memories. Ooh, that's so hard. Okay, I'm going to say Toto's Greatest Hits. And I say that because we had that CD and we took it on tour. I used to play it in my headphones when I was trying to beat my PBs when I was running. Like when we would all hang out, like my band and my team and stuff, like a lot of the time we would just whack on some Toto because every musician loves Toto. So I'd say probably that, but there's probably a more deep answer in there, but that's the first one that came to the brain.
It's funny you say that. I love Africa. It's one of the best songs ever written. And loads of times I'm going, should I buy the Toto's Greatest Hits? Because I don't think I know any other songs. I probably know them if I heard them.
You would know Hold the Line if you played GTA.
Yeah. Maybe I should order because I like to have a CD or physical or vinyl. I like to have a physical.
That's one you will not regret because you're going to listen to that and go, oh, that famous DJ did a remix of that. Oh, that person did a more famous version of this song, or like all of the things. It's truly like you won't regret it. Like honestly, you'll have the best time listening to it.
What song or album is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. So I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Because if you like it, you like it, and that's it. You don't get a free pass saying like, oh, it's guilty. But I will say, because I not listened to their work before, but I've met them a few times and they're a lovely person, but I'd never actually listened to their music. And I think the Harry Styles album, Fine Line, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to listen to that, whatever prejudice they have against it. That album is so good that if you just like well done music, anyone could stick their headphones on and enjoy that album, in my opinion. Yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah, I must check out that. Excellent. If you could go back and relive one musical moment from your career, what would it be?
The first time I ever sang publicly for my grandmother, we surprised her by, she wanted me to get into singing lessons. I was in singing lessons because of her. And then one day I decided to go sing in mass. She didn't know. And whenever I started singing, my cousin was sitting beside her and she turns to my cousin, she goes, "Who's that singing?" And it's Janet. My grandmother was the fundamental reason I got into music. Like, I would never have gotten to singing. I would not be here doing this if it wasn't for her. Unfortunately, she has passed. But I think I would, I get a bit emotional when I think about it, but I think I'll go back to that. Yeah.
Amazing. So what's your ambitions going forward? What's next on the musical bucket list for you?
Well, I was always, my 10-year plan has always been to end up in country music. I just was like, up until like I'm 24, I'll just play around and play with sound and just have a fun time making whatever I want, but then I'll do country. So I'm just going to keep doing that. Like, I always get like, asked like, what's the goal? And I'm like, what's the goal? There's no ceiling on this career, which is the best, like, it's not like you get in the job and they're like, you're like, oh, can I get a promotion? They're like, no, you actually don't. There's no ladder for your job. That's your job. Like, this job, there's an infinite ladder, My thing is, I want to be successful enough that I can buy a nice bit of land and a lovely house back home and, like, live back home. Because when you get really big and successful, people work around you and they make accommodations. Because I have to live in London because that's where like every one of my team is. Well, my UK team. But I would love to just be closer to my family on the time that I'm not working. I want to go back to being a daughter, an auntie, a niece, or I would love to just spend more time back home, have a lovely big house in the country.
Are you able to get home much?
This year more than last year. I only got home once last year. Last year was the craziest year of my life. This year, luckily, I've got like, Pride and Oma to do. I got the Dublin gig. I have, done like radio promo trips and TV promo trips, and I'm actually kind of hopping. And my brother's getting married in June, so I'm gonna go for that. Get a whole week for that because you don't just fly in to the day of an Irish wedding. Mm-hmm. There's a prep process and you have to do it. So I definitely am getting back more this year, which is really nice.
Class. Well, Janet, that's me done.
Easy.
I hope it was painless for you.
Oh no, it was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me so much of your time.
Well, likewise, absolutely. Love what you're doing now. Love the new track. Really looking forward to the new album. Hopefully, it's not going to be released for ages.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll see it, on tour at some stage, in Belfast, Dublin, or whatever.
Yeah, no, I just, the more bums on seats at home, the better.
Yeah. No, brilliant. No, I really, really like the new track. It's class, and I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you. Well, we'll see how you feel about the next one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, and I hope you have a good day. And again, thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Have a good one.